Welcome in to a Thursday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show.
Wait,
live. Is it Thursday?
It is Thursday.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
Thursday
gosh, I
for sure.
panicked.
Driven and powered here by Go Chevrolet.
Class? What day is it?
Shout out to our friends over at Go Chevrolet, Nick Richard and Lee Carney, and the entire crew over there. Go Chevrolet's got a couple of locations, LaPlace, Louisiana for brand new cars, and right here in Baton Rouge at Go Express Auto Sales for used cars. We appreciate you starting your Thursday morning with us here on the Jordy Culotta Show, a part of FM Digital Network. Remember, hit that like button, share button. If you want to comment, we appreciate you being here daily. We're brought to you by Papa Earl's, 30% less sodium than the competition. Pick them up wherever you shop locally. High Neighbors, Calandros, Rouse's. Also brought to you by Metropolitan Health Group. It'll be a busy day on the phone lines this morning. Our phone line is brought to you by Metropolitan Health Group. Real doctors, real solutions. Jason Ramazan, Charlie Harvey, and the entire crew over at Metropolitan Health Group. On the phone lines this morning at 7:20, we're going to talk to Josh Pate of 247 and wrap up yesterday's National Signing Day as LSU had a big one yesterday afternoon. They swung and missed on a couple throughout the day. We'll recap it with Pate and Sam Spiegelman coming up here at Spiegelman. Will be here at 8 o'clock this morning as he'll recap more of a local recruiting story for us. And Josh Pate will talk more about the national recruiting at 7:20. 7:45, we're going to talk to Cody Worsham. Worsham, of course, over at LSU, a part of the executive team over there. They had an on-campus NIL meeting yesterday that was pretty cool. We're going to get him to recap it. Jay Johnson was a speaker. Brian Kelly led the event off as he kicked it off with a speech on National Signing Day to show the importance of what Brian Kelly thought about it. So we'll talk to Cody Worsham about what came out of that meeting at 7:45 this morning. As we said, we appreciate you being here and starting your day here with us on this Thursday. If you don't mind hitting that like button, share button, comment button. We're also brought to you by True Blue Water. Check them out online at trubluewater.com. As we get into it here on this Thursday edition.
Thursday. We're almost there.
I need the nap.
There you go. Anything this weekend?
Lloyd's got better color today.
I do. I feel alive.
Yes.
I looked at the stream yesterday.
Flipped it
I
off.
was sweating.
Bro.
I was like,
Sure.
what were we doing? Oh, man.
It was bad.
I was beating.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a 20-minute stretch there where I was like,
I think he's
I don't know,
gonna
man.
die.
I don't know. Just leave it running.
Uh-huh.
You know what I
See
mean?
what
Just go
happens.
ahead. Walk out. We're good,
I
man.
was wondering, everybody was looking at me like I had 4 heads, and I was like, do I really look that bad? And I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh my God, I need to get off I need to get off the stream.
The poll question is up, and I think it's a good one to start off today. Was LSU's signing day a success? And yesterday morning, we kind of spelled it out and talked about what we thought the day was going to look like. And a lot of what we kind of said played out, and it was for the reasons that we thought. I mean, Texas A&M swung a huge NIL recruiting pitch throughout this class. And Jimbo Fisher yesterday, for as passionate and as dialed in as Fisher was on his rant, and you could see it, man. I mean, his top lip was quivering. He was
Boiling
pissed.
over.
I've watched it over
He was
and
pissed. I mean,
really
he
was.
goes at everybody. He goes at writers. He goes at coaches. He goes at websites. He goes at everybody.
Shot at Lane and Nick.
Yes.
Saban, Kiffin.
I feel like that was mainly who he was going for. with
And
those
really,
two.
it would have been a great rant if not for the last
Second.
10 seconds when he said, NIL doesn't mean anything. Damn it, Jimbo.
Well,
Come on, man.
Change the game. It ain't NIL.
I mean,
Well,
what
look
is
at it.
that?
Accent is the best.
Come on, man. Come
Can
on,
we
come
play
on, come
it?
on.
Yeah,
We're gonna have it.
The accent just makes it all.
He
so
does.
much
God, he
better.
sounds like Texas A&M's coach.
Doesn't
No.
he?
You know what I mean? He is like
It's perfect.
I mean, he is Hollywood casting. I mean,
Yeah.
he fits the part. I mean, hire the guy. So yesterday morning, as we said, we were learning from LSU's side, and we had heard from people on Jacoby Matthews' side that he was telling people at LSU that he wanted to come to LSU. Like, I think even like Wednesday morning, there was another boost of energy for LSU's side that they thought that they were really going to be able to pull it off, where they were going to get Perkins and Matthews in this class on a day where they were going to lose Danny Lewis and lose Trevante Citizen. By the way, Citizen going to Miami. I thought it was all about the relationships.
That was so rude.
Good Lord.
The things that come out of recruiting.
Come on,
night.
man.
Of relationships.
Good God.
You had relationships with all 4 schools, it felt like, at least for a little bit.
So,
That was
Matthews, yesterday morning, for as late as yesterday morning, I think even people at LSU at the highest level thought that they were going to pull off getting Jacoby Matthews on National Signing Day. But come to find out, he had signed the letter of intent early on. LSU really never had a chance to close him yesterday. And it all came down to the money on the table for Matthews. And where his heart was in Baton Rouge, a lot like Denver Harris. It's the same story that we told and heard from Denver Harris's family on this show. Tack Minor, former LSU point guard, is Denver Harris's stepfather and very much involved in his recruiting, laid it out. Denver Harris grew up wanting to go to LSU, wanted to play at DBU, dreamed about running out of the tunnel on a Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. But when it came down to it, it was decision time. The NIL stuff was too organized and too well funded at Texas A&M for him to go anywhere else. And from Jacoby Matthews' standpoint, he grew up in Ponchatoula. I mean, drive down Main Street in Ponchatoula. You can't go 15 feet without seeing purple and gold. Jacoby Matthews grows up in that community, right in the shadows of Tiger Stadium, goes back and forth his entire life, comes down to recruiting, wants to go to LSU, telling LSU he's coming to LSU, telling people around Ponchatoula he wants to go to LSU. But when it comes down to it, the people in his life don't allow him to make a choice that really came down to a business decision. I know you love it. I know that's where your heart is, but this is where you're going. Because the money's too good. And that's what happened yesterday afternoon. Matthews, and we'll talk to Spiegelman about it. Spiegelman's as well connected from 1-3 Sports as anybody that covers recruiting. We'll ask him about his thoughts on Jacoby Matthews, Trevante Citizen, Danny Lewis, and then how LSU was able to corner and get the commitment and letter of intent signed by Harold Perkins, maybe the best defensive player in this recruiting class. A day one impact player steps into LSU's linebacker room that has guys like Mike Jones Jr., Micah Baskerville, a young and budding Greg Penn Jr., who's going to play, it feels like, a lot of football next year. Harold Perkins could be a day one starter, if not for sure a day one contributor. You find a spot on the field for him just to get him on the field. A lot like Marcel Brooks a couple of years ago, but with better defensive skill, more zoned in on something. But Harold Perkins, by all accounts, people that cover him, he could be one of the top running backs in this class if he wanted to be. He could be like a 5-star running back if that's what he kind of focused and played into. So, is National Signing Day a win for LSU? Was it successful?
I mean, they're the number 12
for LSU.
class. I would say yes, right?
I think so. You know, like you think about the variables, and we're going to talk to Josh Pate here in 5 minutes from Go 247 or from 247 Sports. He did a really good job of covering National Signing Day. If you watched it yesterday, CBS HQ did it on YouTube, and it was fantastic and really cool coverage as they went in live. They actually had Perkins' commitment live right there, and Pate hooked up with him right after that and interviewed him, and it was cool to get some insight from Perkins on how, you know, it was really about home. It was really about going back to Louisiana. It was going back to LSU. A lot of the stuff that we talked about, you know, when you grow up with the passion and you grow up with the love for a university, it kind of all came back for Harold Perkins yesterday. I thought that the loss of the day really was Danny Lewis out of everybody. I really did. Because you just the need for Lewis, tight end. You know, I mean, you got really one on the roster right now. You got Mason Taylor coming in this class of 22, which, by the way, I know that they only signed 12 guys. They signed 12 high schoolers. And when you break all those guys down, I mean, they rank as a top 15 class in the country. And then you add on the transfers that they were able to pull in, and they pulled 12 transfers in the cycle. I mean, 247 has them as the 6th rated recruiting class in the country. And with everything that they had to deal with, the adversity, the coaching turnover, the transfer portal, the guys that were thinking about leaving, the guys that left, the guys that went into the draft, everything that's been going on around LSU football for the past couple of weeks and months, I mean, to look up and see them number 6 in overall rankings and recruiting is a win. Yesterday was a miss. Yesterday was a loss. But if nothing else, you got to spin yesterday, if you're within LSU football's facility, into a positive. You got to take National Signing Day of 2022 and learn from that and see that if you don't get the NIL space, pitch organized, then you can recruit as hard and as good as anybody out there, but you're going to lose on signing day because Jacoby Matthews wanted to come to LSU. Denver Harris wanted to come to LSU. There's a couple of guys that you can point to right here in this immediate class. The first time that NIL is relevant in recruiting that LSU missed on that they could have had if they just had a simple pitch and organized NIL space put together like their competition does.
Is the ranking based on more than just how many 5-star, 4-stars, and 3-stars that a class gets?
Say it again.
Like their overall ranking, is it based on more than just the 5-star, 4-star, 3-star commits, like the number of those? Or
no,
really
it's ranked on the star system and the grading system. I mean, if that's Texas A&M's composite recruiting score was higher than anybody that had ever been graded in recruiting. That's what this class is like. That's kind of the buildup of this ever.
Oh, wow.
Ever. But when you spend that amount of money on these guys,
do that.
I mean,
Look,
like
here
that's
he is explaining exactly that's not what happened. If you want to hear from him,
I feel like I have it memorized.
Here's my problem. There is no $30 million fund. There is no $5 million. There is no 10. This is garbage, okay? And it does. It pisses me off that people, and here it comes from a site called Bro Bible by a guy named Sliced Bread. Then everybody runs with it. So it's written on the internet as gospel. How irresponsible is that? And then to have coaches in our league and across this league say it, clown acts. All right? Irresponsible as hell. Multiple coaches in our league. And the guy's griping about NIL, griping about transfer portal, using it the most and bragging about it the most. That's the ironic part. You want character? I'll take it with any of y'all. It's a joke. It does piss me off. The other thing, when you look at vice president, I get another one. Vice president of Notre Dame. Supposed to be a reputable university, right? That's a heck of a person leading a reputable university. I'd be real proud if I hired that guy. Read it off Sliced Bread. It's funny. When Nick Saban said his quarterback got an $800,000 deal, it was wonderful. Now it ain't wonderful no more, huh? But ours, we ain't got that. Ours are on record what comes up. We ain't doing all them big deals. There ain't none on our place that we know of. That's funny when you do it. The hypocrisy is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and it's insulting to our staff, how hard we work, to how we do things, and it's insulting to Texas A&M because there ain't a better place to go to school and play ball. If you don't like it, we're coming on. Get used to it. All right? We ain't going nowhere. It's an absolute joke that people put the hard work in and do it. It's irresponsible, but it's funny when they get it, it's all okay. Ball games are changing, man. And it ain't because of NIL and what goes on. It's pretty irresponsible of all of them. They're clowns.
We'll go next.
If they got a problem with it, come see me. I ain't a hard guy to find.
Compliments of the Paul Feinbaum show right there on the Jimbo Fisher rant. That was unbelievable, man.
It is so awesome.
We couldn't hear the audio. We've heard it multiple times, but as we were sitting here, it was very quiet in here. It was kind of awkward.
Yeah, we all sat here like we could hear it, like we could watch it.
I
And we were
know.
just like, okay, I guess we could be quiet. Microphones were muted. We could have said whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
I'm scared for that.
But compliments Paul Feinbaum there, as Jimbo Fisher yesterday really kind of won the sound bites of the year, man. I mean, he's just kind of going all in on
Yeah,
this.
he
I mean, really, at this point, you've got to embrace it. You know, I mean, like, come on, man. I know your staff is working hard, but you have, like, credit to you. Credit to Texas A&M for being so organized.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Kelly and I were talking about it, and I thought she said it best. She was like, they understood the project. You know what I mean? Like, they understood the assignment.
Yeah, they
you know, I mean,
Absolutely.
like, they saw that NIL was on the horizon, and they got their ducks in a row. They got organized behind the scenes, and when they were able to go into living rooms and make that pitch and talk to these guys about how they were going to use that, it really won people over. And, I mean, I don't think that it's a discredit. It still feels a little grimy because, you know, I mean, that's how NCAA football has been looked at for so long in recruiting. But now when it's above the table, and there's still stuff that's happening under the table, but when this stuff is happening above board, I mean, look, those are the rules. And I know that Jimbo was fired, and I thought it was a great soundbite. I mean, he just kind of stepped in at the end when he said that NIL doesn't mean anything. I mean, come on, Jimbo.
Look what just happened.
I mean, right. But, you know, I mean, like, but credit to you and your program. I mean, you are so far out in front of the competition on this right now that, I mean, you have become the model. You have become the test case. You have become what people are going to look at and say, hey, look, we got to get like Texas A&M is or something like that to be competitive with what they're doing because they're picking. Did you see their defensive line class? I mean, pull up their recruiting class and look at the dudes that they got in this class. I mean, their defensive line is nasty. I mean, that cat Shamar Stewart from South Florida that they pulled. I mean, like, dude, like
Get to signing day.
He looks old school Miami.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, he looks like 2000 Hurricanes. And he's going to College Station? Get the hell out of here, man.
On signing day. Like,
You know what I
and
mean?
we're adding this little cherry on top of the class. And then you get Jacoby Matthews at the end of the day.
It's crazy, man.
Good Lord.
Let us get to Josh Pate from 247 Sports. Welcome aboard Morales Roll-Offs. Morales Roll-Offs is located at 16155 Airline Highway, where you can get your next roll-off dumpster from a local company who cares about your projects and needs. Katie and I went and visited with them last week, 2 weeks ago. Man, they are friendly. They know what they're talking about. They've got great experience, and they have one promise is that their prices will not be beat. They've got the best prices that you can find for commercial, residential roll-off dumpsters. They're easy to find on Airline Highway. You can find them online at moralesrolloffs.com. That is MORALES, rolloffs.com. Competitive prices. It's a local business with great customer service and great prices. Residential, commercial contractors, and homeowners are welcome over there. As we said, they're located at 16155 Airline Highway over on Airline Highway. And you can find them online at moralesrolloffs.com. Welcome aboard here to the Jordy Culotta Show. We appreciate you supporting us, and get out there and support them. Morales Roll-Offs on Airline Highway. Commercial, residential roll-offs dumpsters. They offer all of it
And
over
they sent
there.
us home with a big old Drew Brees cutout.
They did.
Oh, nice.
That's who gave that to us.
MoralesRolloffs.com. MoralesRolloffs.com. All right, we'll talk more about recruiting next here with Josh Pate. Come back with us here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
Is that how you found the sponsor, Katie? Because of your party? You get a place to clean up?
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
what
I
happened?
could have used a dumpster for that. Oh, you didn't? Aw, it's funny.
Is your phone back? Not back. Well, do we have headphones?
Yep, yeah, I got you.
How are you?
Wait, there's not a...
All right, welcome back here to our post-National Signing Day coverage as LSU was able to pick up Harold Perkins yesterday. Missed out on a couple of guys like Trevante Citizen, Danny Lewis, and Jacoby Matthews yesterday afternoon who pledged to Texas A&M. Covering the entire day was Josh Pate over at 247 Sports. Did an incredible job for CBU on their YouTube station. We were at it locked in all day over here in the studio watching it all. He had interviews with all of the commitments. He had interviews with coaches. He was in Saban's office. Him and Saban were chumming it up yesterday. We may be talking to the next college football commissioner. Who knows? Great day of coverage for you yesterday, man. Great work. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Look, I appreciate it. You know that you can bring me in anytime and you can get an independent outside opinion on this show. And so I want to give it to you right now. I was listening about 5 minutes before you brought me on. And I just want you to think this out loud with me, okay? We're talking about NIL and we're talking about a lot of money being thrown around, and I get it. But you do realize that you're sitting in a swanky new setup there, swinging a baseball bat on live air, correct?
Yes,
like,
sir.
this feels like either NIL money or cartel money, one or the other.
He's Italian.
But either
coach.
way, it
Yes.
looks really good.
It is mob money, so we appreciate you watching and being dialed in.
else?
But thank you very much. And as always, it's great to link up with you, man. What was your reaction to Jimbo's day? What Texas A&M was able to accomplish? Because I know by your service, they are graded out as the highest rated recruiting class ever. And then his press conference yesterday afternoon kind of sending shots at everybody.
Yeah, that was weird because we had him about 30 minutes before that. And I wanted him to talk about that one way or the other because, I mean, that's all anyone's mentioned of NIL, Texas A&M. And it's not like I've got a stack of evidence of anything on my desk, but I've heard the same things everyone else has heard.
Sure.
And so I just gave it to him. I think it's doing someone a favor when you ask it the way I did, because all I said was everyone's got an opinion on NIL. What do you think about it, and what has it actually meant for your class? And, man, he was teed up. I think he had his press conference bullet points in front of him, and he just decided to give it a dry run with us. And, he said a lot, obviously. A couple of shout-outs to our buddy Sliced Bread. So that was always good for him to get some recognition.
What
on
a big
National
day for
Signing
sliced
Day.
bread.
Or as we know him, Toast. No, he's out of the way for a little while. But it was one thing to suggest that he's got a hardworking staff, and he takes it as an insult that people say that's solely due to money. I think it's one thing that's a little bit different to say NIL has nothing to do with this whatsoever. I think that's a little far-fetched. But, when I asked the follow-up, I said, well, what is the misconception then? And that's exactly what he said. He pushed back on the $30 million figure, and I get all that. But it's not only is it, I think, a little unrealistic to suggest NIL has nothing to do with this, you also don't need to go that route. Because as of this moment, it's okay legally for NIL to have something to do with this.
It's a compliment. Like they were prepared. They understood the project. I mean, when NIL was introduced, they were so far out in front of everybody that it's almost a compliment to what they pulled off yesterday.
I think the same thing. I remember when the early signing day got put in, and a lot of folks were, with a lot of trepidation, they were kind of approaching it saying, well, how many kids do we really want to take in the early signing class? Well, Georgia and Kirby Smart said, screw it. And they ran over the cliff with it. Well, that locked up a number one class for them. And then the next year, everyone was taking kids on early signing day, but they at least got 1 year's head start on everyone. And they used it to, as you just saw, eventually build the foundation for national championship. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know why someone would fight it with such insecurity at the moment, because it is it's on the up and up, at least when it comes to what's allowed.
At Late Kick Josh is where you follow him on social media. Got a great live show that comes on YouTube Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central Time. What'd you think of what Brian Kelly pulled off in his first recruiting class at LSU?
This is impressive to me. It was impressive that they got Perkins, and he was there and he committed live with us. But here's what I wanted to know. Right afterwards, I asked him about Brian Kelly because, I mean, a lot of folks have watched these viral videos of Brian Kelly, and it's a lot of 40-year-old dudes who live in, like, rural Wisconsin who have an opinion on it. I wanted to know what a kid who actually has the talent to compete at this level thought about it. And we heard this like 2 or 3 times yesterday, and I know you guys did too. those kids who committed yesterday, and some of them were very highly sought after, they said some form of what Harold Perkins said. And what Perkins said was, I had a perception of Brian Kelly. Like, I thought he was one way when I saw him at Notre Dame, but now I've been around him, and he's not the way I thought he was. To me, that speaks volumes because it validates what Brian Kelly's doing. It's not about a specific video. It's not about a specific thing he does on a recruiting visit. What it is about is understanding there was a playbook he used at Notre Dame, and it worked fine for him up there. I thought he was still massively underrated as a coach up there, given their limitations. But he was also sharp enough to know, I've got to formulate a new playbook down there. That doesn't mean I'm going to coach football differently, because he's not. What he does on the football field is proven. But he does understand recruiting's a different world at LSU, and therefore I've got to put different ornaments on my tree if I'm Brian Kelly. And he's done that. And it may make you cringe every now and then, or it may make you feel awkward every now and then. Doesn't really matter, because if it works, it works. Don't change a thing would be my advice.
Just a few more minutes with Josh Pate here at Late Kick Josh on social media is where you find him. A&M won the day. They took the national storylines. We're buried in the LSU forest here. From your point of view, who else stood out yesterday and made some noise in this recruiting period?
Well, they're the obvious. I mean, Alabama. Look, here's what's weird. Alabama, had A&M not done what they did yesterday, Alabama would have one of the highest rated classes of all time. I think it's like the third highest rated of all time. So it's somewhere way up there. But I was looking elsewhere. Like, I was looking at what Texas did. Mm-hmm. They did as good on the line of scrimmage as you have seen them do in the modern era. And that is very, very needed out there, both now and in the future when they eventually move to the SEC. I thought it was miraculous. Listen to this now. This is going to sound like I'm just misspeaking, but I'm not. Oklahoma had the highest rated class that they've had yesterday. Oklahoma and Brent Venables, they come in, and in a month's time, they ended up securing a higher rated class than Oklahoma had last year when Lincoln Riley was still there. So to me, that's fascinating. I thought Clemson at least silenced a little bit of the doubt out there, because I can tell you, talking to some people both on the administrative side and in the coaching world, there were people who thought Clemson was going to fall off a cliff. Now, we haven't seen them on the field this fall, but they finished with a number 11 class. I think they took 20 kids so far. And so it was a pretty good class from their standpoint. But also, here's the other thing that stood out. Mm-hmm. Mario Cristobal got in town like 5 minutes ago at Miami, and yet they had the highest rated class in the state of Florida. Wow. So you can look at it one of two ways. You can look at it and, man, they missed out on Shamar Stewart. Well, no, they really didn't, because it's unrealistic to think they actually had a shot to begin with if you look at it from 50,000 feet. Yeah. But what he can say moving forward is that's how he can sell it. It's, look, we got here and we locked down the number one class in the state even when we were brand new. So think about what we can do with a year or 2 years or 3 years. And I don't think he'll be lying if he puts it that way.
Yeah, big win for him coming into Louisiana and taking their best running back, Trevante Citizen, yesterday morning, pledged to the Hurricanes over Florida, LSU, and Auburn. Last one, Josh, I'll get you out of here. Do you think Jim Harbaugh is coaching college football or in the NFL next season?
I think college football, but I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, listen, someone texted me last night and said, watch out for some Dan Mullen vibes here. And what they were talking about is this time last year, Mullen tried to get that NFL job. And he didn't. Well, the problem is he also never fully checked back in at Florida. And as a result, you saw what happened this past year on the field. Now, Harbaugh, I think, loved the college game more than Mullen did. But it's really hard, dude, when you jump and then there's nothing there to catch you and you try and turn around and come back after everyone has seen you fail with that jump. That is a different dynamic in the locker room. Jordy, it is hard to ask people to go over the cliff for you when you tried to jump off of it in front of them.
Real quick, a listener question before you get out of here. Hashtag Ask Josh from John Quave says, Josh, does Texas have the best O-line class in the country?
Yes, I believe they do. We spent an inordinate amount of time on that later in the day yesterday because we had to fill because the package didn't run that was supposed to be 6 minutes long. So, yeah, we just improv for 6 minutes. But our guys there who did a great job yesterday, man, we had a really, really good big staff working that show. But like Steve Wilfong and Chris Singletary and Cooper Pategna and those guys, they tossed that around and went player by player. And even if I had never seen the Texas class before that moment, they would have gone a long way in convincing me. So I'm going to say yes, it is.
At Late Kick Josh on all social media. Very busy morning for him, wrapping up yesterday's National Signing Day. We appreciate the minutes with us here this morning. We'll be touching base soon. Thanks, man.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right, man. There's Josh Pate checking in this morning. We will talk to
jacked up too. On the show yesterday.
Yeah, bro, he's all yoked up.
Got good camera angles.
Cody Worsham, the white shirt with the white background was a little dangerous because you couldn't find the definition. That's I kind of texted him and said you might want to get a little tighter tuck for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little pop.
Get that shoulder pop. And I
Whatever
know that he was looking
worked.
for.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Don't let him fool you.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Cajun Ready Mix Concrete. Remember online at CajunRMC.com. Cajun Ready Mix provides ready mix concrete for any project, no matter if it's residential, commercial, municipal. Get in touch with them this morning online. That's the best way to do it. CajunRMC.com. I tell you all the time that they've got 9 plant locations around the greater Baton Rouge area. You may ask why that means anything to you. If you order concrete, it means it's going to be there on time and to the exact specification. Online at CajunRMC.com, CajunRMC.com. Good stuff from Josh Pate there, wrapping up yesterday's National Signing Day. And I think the further we get away from this for LSU, the more that it will look like a success because you will start to understand all of the BS that they've been dealing with and just putting a staff together, putting people in place, putting the support staff in place. I mean, everything that's gone in to get this thing on the road and moving at a high rate of speed to keep up with the Alabama, A&Ms, Florida, Georgias of the world is still being done. But the way that they were able to kind of fly the plane in the air and make the repairs during this signing period, this class, I believe, will always kind of haunt LSU. Like it'll always kind of, because you'll always be able to see them, right? Like Jacoby Matthews, you'll see him all 3 years. Aaron Anderson and Shaz Preston and Danny Lewis, you're going to see all 3 to 5 years that they're on campus. I mean, like you'll either be playing them or going to see them every year. I mean, you're never going to really be able to get away from the class of 22, but you were able to get some guys that are going to be really the foundation of your future. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Quincy Wiggins, Walker Howard, Harold Perkins. You know, I mean, like, they didn't sign a lot. They got so much more quality over the quantity this year. While the numbers aren't mesmerizing and they don't make you just say, wow, look at all the guys they got. But the ones that they did sign out of high school, I mean, all of these cats, you could say, I mean, they're going to be the foundations of the future. I mean, at their position group. So, you know, I mean, credit to Brian Kelly and his group. I really and truly, Frank Wilson, everybody for the job. And yesterday hurts. Yesterday stung for an LSU fan. It really hurt for guys like Frank Wilson and Cortez Hankton and Brian Kelly, who put in a lot of work. And I think probably at points during this recruitment thought for sure that they were going to at least get Danny Lewis and or Jacoby Matthews, Harold Perkins. I think the Trevante Citizen thing was kind of they knew. I think they kind of knew late in the process. He kind of stopped answering text and phone calls, and that's usually a telltale sign that
I would think so.
It's not going to work
going
out.
Great.
Yeah, it's not going to work out.
Well,
I mean, really, the Perkins thing was stressful all the way to the 11th hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know yesterday morning we were on here saying that, you know, the one that you feel most confident about is Perkins. But even saying that, when going back and talking to LSU people, they're like, I mean, we're not too confident.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
paperwork.
it's not done yet.
Yeah.
You know, so stressful day for LSU. I mean, a high stress day, and I think that, you know, overall, getting Harold Perkins eases the blow of, you know, missing out on. To me, the miss is Lewis. It really is. I mean, Jacoby Matthews is a stud, and sure, you'd love him. I think you got enough safeties in the room to get through. I mean, if Sage Ryan, if it clicks.
How much they talked about Jacoby Matthews all year.
He was a stud.
Like every time we asked who was the number one player in Louisiana, it was Jacoby Matthews. I was going to ask you, if they don't get Harold Perkins yesterday, I mean, I feel like the tenor around the entire program changes. At least it's one name that you can point to and say, right, there's a win. Like, if they go 0 for 5 yesterday on guys that you had circled, like, what do you think the expectation around Baton Rouge is today?
Yeah.
Like, it's just one guy that is able to save the class, or at least what the outside opinion of the class is.
I thought he did.
Yeah.
I thought he did, because I believe that Harold Perkins is a day one impact player. If he's not the starting linebacker versus Florida State, he's going to be flying down on the kickoff team, killing cats. And you're going to be saying, number 4's got to play.
Now, after one play of special teams, put him in the game.
You got to find a spot for him. It's Marcel Brooks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care where you put him. Kendall Beckwith. You know, like, get this guy onto the field. Harold Perkins, to me, is going to have that type of feeling. You know, I think Quincy Wiggins, you'll see how raw he is out there next year.
Like a Marcus Davenport.
Yeah. Like, Walker Howard's not going to be ready to play next season. Will Campbell and Emory Jones are going to go through some growing pains next year. I think that if Harold Perkins is playing as much as those guys, he's not going to have as many welcome to college football moments. Like, he's just going to be out there, like,
it's going to be the other way around.
Busting heads.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Like, oh, man, this
this
guy's ready to play college football.
4 he's a dude.
You think they put him at linebacker?
I think you can use him like next year, because you have linebackers and you've got guys established. You can almost kind of like move him around and like blitz him off the edge.
Like Marcel.
Yeah, exactly like that, because he's so fast and so, I mean, his highlight film is stupid.
Stupid.
It is. Marcel Brooks' highlight film is one of the best I've ever seen. And Harold Perkins is better than him. I mean, it's like, but it's the same type of stuff, because they're making plays in every aspect of the game. They're returning punts. They're returning kickoffs. They're blocking punts. They're blocking field goals. They're catching touchdowns. They're rushing for touchdowns. They're
throwing for touchdowns.
Knocking people's helmets off when they hit them. They're intercepting passes.
Miles.
They're sack, fumble, scoop, scores. I mean, it's just like, good God.
Yeah, you don't even have to circle like the number or point out who Harold Perkins is. You just have to watch one play. Like, I bet it's about him. Yeah. Like, it's unbelievable how much he pops on a
It's
high
number
school
4.
field. Yeah, this is what that's about.
So look, I mean, it's going to be. I think the further you get away from this class of 22, I think the more that we will respect the work that Frank Wilson, Brian Kelly, and the entire staff was able to pull off in just a short amount of time. And it gives you a definite sense of security going into a full recruiting cycle, now armed with the staff in place, the personnel, the people in place. The message that they're selling is going to be accepted. Like, they were in all the conversations, all the recruiting conversations, they were up front on. They were winning a lot of those chats, a lot of those talks with these high-end guys. Jacoby Matthews, I think, is the most easy example, but we had Tack Miner on this show a couple of weeks ago talking about what Denver Harris's point of view was. I mean, Denver Harris is the best cornerback in the country. He grew up with purple and gold on his walls in Houston. I mean, he wanted to go to LSU. Tack said it right here, his stepdad. So, I mean, they've got to get NIL in place over the next 6 months.
Jeez, they do.
They've got to get it tightened up. They've got to get it organized. They've got to get some type of plan in place where Brian Kelly, Frank Wilson, the staff can go sit in somebody's living room, and when they get asked, how are you going to get us an NIL deal after we just talked to Alabama, Texas A&M, and Texas, and they've got this lined up for not only me, not only the player, but the parents. And that's really what this is all coming down to. And that's where Texas A&M is running laps around people.
Is their biggest prize Walter Nolan for this class?
I
mean, he's the top defensive tackle in this one, but then they picked up Shamar Stewart, who I think, I mean, like, you turn on the film and there's nobody better than him.
No.
I mean, that guy is the best. He is the best.
He's better than Nolan?
I mean, turn the film on.
They don't have to worry about it. They got both of them.
He's doing it again. It doesn't matter. I mean, both of them are going to be great.
Play on the same team.
They're both pros. I mean, they're both pros.
Do you think Jimbo's going to be able? What time is it? Do you think Jimbo's going to be able to mess this up? Like,
yes,
this
absolutely.
will be. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself.
Hey, this is very easy to mess up. The
egos.
The story will be if they can really make it through, succeed, and win. That will be an incredible coaching performance by Jimbo Fisher. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely the 30 for 30 film needs to start today.
Like 6 months ago.
Or like it should have been running. The camera should have been running. But I mean, as soon as these guys, as soon as the early enrollees started to get on campus for spring, for the spring semester. I mean, they should be documenting this from day one because this is either going to be a beautiful disaster or this is going to be Miami 2001 where you're just like, good Lord, these cats are NFL ready today. Like they could probably compete with an NFL team. And
this will be,
they got the dudes. In 2 years, you will look at this team and say, they're either for real or this is a documentary that is going to be, it's going to be incredible.
It's going to be a little bit like LSU when you get to like come draft time. We're like, God, Lord, all these kids went to LSU and like maybe nothing happened. Like, how did they not win more? Or it's going to be, remember that class of 22 from Texas A&M? Like, here comes draft day, and you're going to have, 12 of the top 32 picks be from Texas A&M.
Oh, nice.
This is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it is.
Jimmy Burrow confirmed 8:15 this morning.
Oh,
we'll
he just woke up?
No way, bro.
I'm talking about from the weekend.
Yeah. Probably from the dream.
Sunday.
From the dream. We're going to talk to Cody Worsham here in a minute. Hey, buddy. How are you? Hold tight. Coming to you.
All good.
Yes, sir. Let's go to the phone line. Remember, Metropolitan Health Group brings you our phone line every single day here on the Jordy Culotta Show as real doctors, real solutions. Our friend Cody Worsham. We go from Josh Pate, who broke down National Signing Day from a national perspective. Here we go to Cody Worsham, who is over at LSU. He's on the executive team over there. He's also a great host of podcast, Tigers Win, Boot Up, Hey Fighting podcast that you can get all on at LSUsports.net. But yesterday, a really cool function over on LSU's campus, and it was an event centered around NIL, and there was great personalities in there, kind of breaking it down from a college perspective to give you an idea of just how important this was to the people on campus at LSU. Brian Kelly opened the event up with his speaking, and then Jay Johnson was on the panel, and then Scott Woodward wrapped it up. LSU is working with a company, Altius, who is helping universities around the country deal with NIL. They had a position on this last night. It was really cool. LSU is trying to get out in front of it, and as we said, this is something that is playing into recruiting of future student athletes, and we've seen LSU kind of try to get out in front of it with the NILSU stuff, and now yesterday's get-together. Cody Worsham is here to talk about it with us on the Jordy Culotta Show. Good morning, man. How are you?
What's up, y'all? Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First off, tell me how yesterday came to be, the thought behind yesterday in putting it together.
Yeah, a lot of credit. In fact, basically all the credit goes to Taylor Jacobs, who's been our NIL point person over here at LSU. She has a compliance background, but since the NIL stuff has really taken off, she's shouldered a lot of the institutional responsibility with athletics. Obviously, working with our administration, Scott, Stephanie, and Burge, they've empowered Taylor to sort of take this thing and run with it, and she's done a great job. So she put together this event. I think she came up with the idea maybe late December, and they said, all right, let's go. Pick a date and let's do it. And the last 6 weeks has been a sprint for them, but it was incredible to show up last night, Jordy. And, I mean, there was at least 500 people there from across the community, the local business community. It was in the South Stadium Club at Tiger Stadium. It was a beautiful setup. And then the programming was just great. It was, equal parts education, kind of learning about it, from experts who have been in the space, from businesses who have done deals, some best practices, some things that have worked, some things that haven't worked for them, but also just getting everybody together. And like you said, with Coach Kelly opening it up on National Signing Day, I think he was in a pretty good mood, considering the news that he got right before he walked in with Harold Perkins, which was great. But he very much understands how critical this is to recruiting. All of our coaches were there. Every single one of our head coaches was in attendance. They're taking it in. Will Wade, I saw him right before he went to his radio show. He was there. Saw Kim Mulkey. Saw basically all of our coaches there. That's how important this was for them, because they understand how central it is to recruiting and how quickly this space is changing. I think when NIL was launched, it was considered to be, at least especially with our state law, we kind of saw our role as brand elevation, elevating the brands of our student athletes. I think we're really good at that. But this space keeps shifting and keeps shifting. And so you got to stay on top of it and stay in front of it. And that's what the goal was last night. I don't know how many institutions, any athletic departments that have done something like that to that scale. So it was really cool to see and to be a part of.
Cody, what is the relationship between the university, businesses, as the way that it's legislated and as the law is written? What is the capabilities of both sides?
Yeah, so just the caveat being that I'm not a lawyer and
Sure.
state law is not my expertise, but my understanding of it is with my role just in branding is that we can't the institution cannot facilitate deals for student athletes, right? That's a Louisiana state law. It was written into the state law when this was passed, and it was interesting. It's sort of my elementary knowledge of it is that for a while there, if you didn't have a state law last year, you were going to be behind, right? Because it was really going to the understanding was that the NCAA, if you had a state law, you could participate in NIL. If you didn't, you could not participate in NIL. And then after a lot of states passed state law, the NCAA came in and said, all right, it doesn't matter if you have a state law or not, just do what you're going to do, right? That's me sort of generalizing it, but that's essentially what happened. And so it went from if you had a state law, you were ahead of the game, to if you had a state law, you were behind the game. So it really changed everything at that point. As it stands right now with the current state law, we can't facilitate deals, but we can educate. So we can educate the business community on the best way to engage in deals. We're working on, when I say we, I mean Taylor, who's spending so many hours on this, working on ways to contact our student athletes through media kits, right? For them to be able to opt into media kits, and those can be distributed to businesses, and businesses can get in touch with them. So our role in this right now is really with Taylor doing the heavy lifting is the education side between student athletes, between the business community, and then my team, our team that kind of handles a lot of the content. We're all about brand elevation, right? So we're going around to teams and talking about how to elevate your brand, how you can work with LSU to elevate your brand, best way to use marks, all that sort of stuff. So the space keeps shifting, and in 6 months, Jordy, it'll probably be totally different. But it's been interesting to see how different programs approach it. Like Jay Johnson, I mean, listening to him talk last night, like I don't think there's a baseball program in the country that's doing NIL better right now. I mean, they're just on top of it. He knows the space. He's engaged in the space. He knows how to have the conversations with the student athletes. And then the progress we've made with Coach Kelly, like I've been in NIL meetings, and he's sitting he's sitting there in the middle of the table, and he's locked in and engaged, and he understands, the differences in state laws between states and what we can do, and how to maximize what we can do. And he's constantly coming up with new ideas on the best way to approach this space. So we've got a really good team here, and I'm excited about the next few months in this space. It's going to change drastically, but it's kind of fun to watch it change from the first row.
Can you give an idea from the front line on how fast it has changed under you guys' feet? Like when one day you may be talking about one rule or regulation within NIL, and the next day it's totally different. How fast has this conversation changed at the executive committee on university campuses?
Yeah, it's rapid, and it depends on state by state, institution by institution. I think the thing that I'm seeing right now is that different states and different schools have different rules that they have to adhere to, right? So not everyone's on the same playing field. So I think that's got to be changed somehow. I don't know if that's each state sort of kind of working together to make sure they have a similar law. If the NCAA comes in and sort of evens things out, I don't know. To me, that's the biggest thing. Now, once whatever rules are in place, you have to play by, right? And so I think our team is doing a really good job of consistently having conversations with experts in the space on what you can and can't do, and how to maximize what you can do. But to me, it all goes back to student athletes and maximizing their experience at LSU and the benefits that they're allowed to receive. How can you maximize their experience while they're here? It changes rapidly. It changes. Taylor could answer better than I could, because she deals with it every day. But every week that I go into one of these meetings, there's something new. There's something that we're trying that's new, seeing if it can work, seeing what's permissible, it's a constantly moving target that you're trying to to hit right now, which is, it's challenging and sometimes frustrating, but also kind of fun and challenging. And I think we're doing a good job of hitting that target, even though it's moving around quite a bit.
At the onset of NIL, it felt like there was almost two lanes you could have picked, and LSU went with we want to elevate people that are already on campus and elevate their brand, like a Livy Dunn, like a Joe Burrow. We can take people that are already on the path to be a superstar and make them even a bigger superstar, get them kind of deals through that way. And it feels like A&M might have slithered into the other lane where they use this as almost a recruiting tool, and they went, younger and went for, this is how we're going to build up our classes through NIL. Is that safe to say?
I'm not sure about the A&M approach. The only familiarity that I have with them is Jimbo Fisher talking about sliced bread yesterday, which was a new one for me. I'm not exactly sure what they've done. I've read the same things that everyone else has read. I know with us that was it's specifically with me and the group that I work with, our video team and our creative team. That was our approach. Our approach was, all right, what can we do to help elevate every brand, not just the Joe Burrows and the Livy Dunns, but we have so many athletes that come through here, and whether they're exceptional athletes that have a unique story in competition or like we have, I don't want to share too much. We have a student athlete that has like a little baking company. They love to bake, right? And so what can we do to sort of elevate your brand so that your brand as an athlete can elevate your brand that you like to do with baking, right? Like all of these student athletes have stories and passions. And so we've always been really good at telling those stories, I think. And then NIL is just sort of like, hey, when you come to us and you allow us to tell your story, when you go out into the marketplace, you're going to be able to maximize and capitalize in a new way. And then like when I talk about like the shifting target and the moving target, like for a while there, it was, well, when student athletes go into this space, they won't be able to use any of the LSU marks, right? But then the rules sort of change, and so you can use the marks, but only in certain contexts. And then the rules kind of shifted a little bit more, and it's like, all right, you can use the marks if you go through this group licensing agreement, right? So there's the next sort of turn, which is sort of outside of the institution, is the rise of all these collectives, right? So there's all these new trends sort of starting to emerge, and you're trying to institutionally keep on top of all of that. And so just from my angle, it's been the branding side. That side actually hasn't changed much. Like that's what we're still here to do. Like we still go around to the teams and talk to them about, hey, come to us, let's tell your story, let's elevate your brand. That hasn't changed. Where it has changed is on the compliance side, on the side with engaging, how much engagement can be done between institution and business. Like I think I saw Ohio State maybe a couple of weeks ago. They sort of pulled all their NIL stuff in-house, right? And so they're allowed to engage with businesses in a different way. Right now, I don't think that's an option for us. Hopefully that'll change at some point. But it's about finding the spaces where you can make an impact and making those impact. And then as you're navigating this ever-changing space, looking for those opportunities to capitalize on what you can do.
Where are you driving the public that's looking for information? Where are you telling people to go to learn?
Well, Taylor handed out her card to everybody last night, so I guess you can go to our website and look up Taylor Jacobs on there and reach out to her. I mean, if you go to lsusports.net/NILSU, that's a good starting point. We have some educational materials there. We'll upload some new stuff from last night because it was extremely informative. Not just from Altius and not just from Taylor, but Brandon Landry from Walk-Ons was there and talked about his experience doing NIL deals. And he had a really powerful moment where he said, he was kind of talking to the business community. He said, look, we got to get behind LSU. We got to support LSU and engage in these deals with student athletes the right way. But make it to where, student athletes, as they're looking for schools, they look at this community and say, that's a community that's going to support me. I thought that was extremely powerful. And so, our job for now is to continue to educate the public on that. lsusports.net/NILSU is a good place to start. I mean, you can reach out to me directly and I'll point you in the right direction. But Taylor's the best person to go to. She's done an incredible job kind of spearheading this for us. But that's what we're here for. The education side, we are maximizing that to the nth degree. So you can reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction.
At Cody Worsham on social media is probably the easiest way to do that. Just find him on Twitter, at Cody Worsham. I'd imagine that you would get a lot of questions like this. Robert Miller just sent in a $5 super chat, and he's an LSU fan, and he says, bottom line, if I could ask Cody anything, and ask him if yesterday's meeting is going to prevent LSU from losing players like Jacoby Matthews.
that $5 super chat, like since we're talking NIL, do I get like a little percentage of that? Like, can we negotiate that on air?
Send that Venmo.
Yeah.
$1.25.
You got your $1.25 on the way.
We got to get the room paid up first.
Since we're talking about NIL, like I have a name, image, and likeness too. I need to start trying to capitalize on that a little bit more.
You got the Heisman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordy, that's why the coaches were there last night, right? Like they don't want to miss out on any student athlete, any prospective student athlete. Like they want to get every player they can. And so last night's meeting was a step in that direction. I don't think we've fixed every issue that there is to fix, but I think a lot of them either are beginning to get fixed or have been fixed. But yeah, that's why Brian Kelly was there, the first one speaking. That's why Scott Woodward closed it out. That's why Jay Johnson was on the panel, and Kim Mulkey and Will Wade and Russell Brock and Garrett Runyon, Dennis Shea, all our coaches were out there for that reason, because they understand that this is a huge piece of recruiting, a massive piece for the future of recruiting. And so we're always going to do things the right way. Integrity is the core of what we do. And then you want to, with that as the foundation, capitalize on every opportunity that's available. And so, that was one of the purposes of last night, was to get everyone in one room to have those conversations, to start educating the community on what we can do, and then to look for opportunities for growth. And I think that's the phase that we're hitting hard now, is where are the growth opportunities? Where can we be better at NIL? Where can we be the best in the country at NIL? That's Scott's message in everything that we do. Hey, go be the best in the country at what you do. With me, it's go make the best podcast in the country. With Emily Dixon, it's go make the best videos in the country. With Taylor Jacobs, it's go be the best at NIL in the country. So that's why our coaches were there, to make sure that they're as educated as they can be, that they're engaged with the community in the right way, so that we can be the best at NIL and that be a huge part of the recruiting piece.
Should we expect more of last night? More events like that?
Oh yeah, there's gonna be more. I'm sure Taylor is recovering this morning after putting in the hours, but there's plans for more events. There's plans for more engagement. Like that's actually one of the cool things about this is, and Brandon made this point last night. Like for forever, businesses couldn't really talk to student athletes, right? Like you're a booster, you couldn't talk to a student athlete; they were off limit. And so there was a gap, there was a distance between the community and the student athlete. Between the department and the community in some spaces, right? Like you were always trying to be conscious of that. Now that NIL is available, you can have an event last night where, all these people are in the same room and they're all, really their goal is or at least the shared goal amongst everyone is, how can we make the student athlete experience at LSU better? How can we make sure that they come here and they have everything they need to compete for championships, get a world-class education, and set themselves up for the next 40 years of life? Because that's the additional component to NIL that I think is really cool. Like, yeah, there's a short-term approach of, it's a recruiting tool and let's get kids on campus. To me, there's a long-term view on this thing too, of like, you're starting to, and really a long-term view and a view that applies to to every student athlete, not just your 5-star recruits, right? Like, you can come to college, you can compete, you can learn, you can start building your resume to go be a professional outside of sport. You can engage with businesses across this state that when you're done playing, if you don't have a shot at the next level, or when you get done at the next level, you come back, hey, remember that NIL deal we did in college? Like, I love working with you. Why don't you come on board and we got a spot for you. Like, you can start a career here. That's what this is all about. This is about transforming lives. It's not about, getting a couple 5 stars here, getting a couple 5 stars there. Sure, that's part of it, but it's a very, 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 very small piece of it. There's a bigger picture to this where, our goal is to transform the lives of student athletes, and that's what we want to do, and that's what an event like last night can help with, and yeah, there'll be more of those.
At Cody Worsham on Twitter, easiest way to get him. Cody Worsham from LSU answering all the questions this morning. We appreciate that, man. Great insight. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it.
You got it. There he is, checking in this morning from LSU. Digital media specialist over there, host a couple of podcasts. Tigers win, boot up, Hey Fighting podcast. Good stuff from Cody Worsham this morning. That conversation brought to you by Falaya Real Estate. Check out our friend Falaya Real Estate from Barrett Blondo online. A bunch of new listings up right now. When you sign up with Falaya, you get maximum exposure. You get a low fixed cost, seamless scheduling, document management. It is much different than for sale by owner. In fact, it's like for sale by owner on steroids. check out Falaya, falaya.com. Download the app. They can also help you with things like home warranties, storage, mortgage, home insurance, titles, moving. Get in touch with them online, falaya.com. We will pick back up the recruiting conversation. Sam Spiegelman from On3 Sports will join us, and we will talk more local here, and we will also talk to Jimmy Burrow before we get out of here. So we're kind of wrapping up to be a pretty good show there.
Show. Watch out,
ladies and gents.
What we do over here sometimes,
right.
every now and again.
Sometimes we
Remember
might
back
do
in
a little
November during the
podcaster.
coaching search when Jimbo Fisher said we're going to have the #1 recruiting class, and I would be the dumbest human on God's earth to come to LSU and coach here against the #1 recruiting class. And I was still thinking, I think he might come here. I think he really might come here. I guess we should have believed him then.
He had his, he knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing. He was not lying.
We got too much money out there for me to leave.
He was not lying. He was telling the complete truth.
Yeah, I'm not going to go coach against this team.
No.
Hello?
Sammy.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Hold tight. Coming to you.
Cool.
Old school, no breaks.
That's right, bro.
Yeah.
You're live. You're live.
Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
Never left.
A couple of locations. Remember, Go Chevrolet, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. Talk some national recruiting stuff with Josh Pate in the earlier hour. Let's localize it now and bring it down with one of the best, Sam Spiegelman, who was just scooped up. Must have been a free. Everybody's a free agent in the game. Schefter's a free agent. Spiegelman was a free agent. He was scooped up by On3 Sports. We talked to Billy Embody a lot here on this show, and seeing Sammy and Billy work together, that's a hell of a duo covering LSU. As Spiegelman now is at On3 Sports and was all over it yesterday. Was I believe was down covering Jacoby Matthews for his announcement. Then he was a great write up on Harold Perkins, and now he joins us here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Sam, thank you. I'd imagine that today is a pretty big hangover for you after yesterday's fireworks and covering National Signing Day.
Well, I like to call it a Sam day. You know, it's anything that I want gets to happen today because I went through a couple of hurdles yesterday. But you know, it's just another Wednesday in February.
Absolutely, Joe. Pool day here in February for you. LSU pulls off Harold Perkins. You had a great write up on Perkins. You followed this recruitment. How wild did it get? How did LSU land the plane with Perkins in it yesterday? And what do you expect his impact to be in year one?
Very strange recruitment. You know, honestly, it's the same schools poking around the entire length of the recruitment. It was always Texas, it was always A&M, and it was always LSU. The kid from New Orleans, family lives uptown, other family in Mid-City, other family in Baton Rouge. Always dreamt of the idea of coming back home, but, you know, Jordy, you know this. People talk about that, and then when it's time to pick your school, you know, all of a sudden you forget where you're from. You know, you're a Houston kid now, you're a Texas kid. Any way you spin it, you can find a tie. I'll tell you, Jeff Banks made a really good run at Texas, but they faded. It became an LSU A&M race right toward the stretch. You throw in a coaching change, and everything lined up for A&M. And obviously, in Orlando, Harold was ready to make a decision. I think the decommitment took everyone by surprise. He had been leaning toward A&M, and while Texas and LSU had made runs at him, you know, committing at the Under Armour game, it seemed like a done deal. It's already January. You know, you sign in 2.5 weeks. Well, then he shows up in Florida, and he wasn't even supposed to visit LSU that last weekend.
Wow.
His family got involved. He rescheduled. He was supposed to go to Miami. Instead, he goes to LSU. The rest is history. His family got involved. You know, his uncles and aunts, all from Louisiana. People on the roster. I mean, there's a lot of Louisiana ties, and I think that, you know, even though Brian Kelly is a new coach, they made him a priority very quickly once they kind of got their foot in the ground. They got the family aspect involved. And when you land Harold Perkins, you know, it's not easy to miss on Jacoby Matthews. That's the #1 player in the state for a reason. When you land someone like Harold Perkins in positionless football in 2022, you might as well have landed Derwin James. I've never seen an athlete like Harold Perkins. I've gotten to see him in person 3 times of the last 3 seasons in game action. I've never seen anyone impact the game on both sides of the ball. I think in 3 games, he has something along the lines of 4.5 sacks I've seen in person, the ability to cover to the sideline, go back deep and play free safety. You're going to the box and be an edge rusher. On offense, he plays running back and receiver and scores, 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. He averaged something like 20 yards a catch for Cy Park last year. You put him in the game on defense and you let him roam, whether it's safety, linebacker, rush off the edge. He's going to be an absolute chaos causer for LSU.
He's playing against Florida State, right?
I don't know how you're going to keep him off the field.
Right.
What's cool is he's got a cool connection with a lot of the transfers that just came into LSU. They all train in New Orleans together. They're also like Harold kind of DBs, and Harold runs a sub 4.5 40. He could play safety, he could play linebacker. He's gonna play and compete for playing time very quickly. He's just too good to keep away from the field.
Hell yeah. LSU, covering LSU and recruiting, is Sam Spiegelman for On3 Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Sam Spiegs. What happened with Danny Lewis? How did that recruitment go? It seemed like LSU had him locked up a week and a half ago, and then it seemed like Alabama's starting to trend. What happened there?
Honestly, Danny is a different kind of kid. So, for each player, you try to find, what is the most important factor in your recruitment. With Danny, he didn't give anything away. One source close to him in the week leading up said he was looking at the depth chart. But if you look at LSU and you look at Alabama, neither team has a very intimidating depth chart at the tight end position. LSU is obviously desperate for tight ends. And after the transfer portal kind of rid Alabama dry and their other Jaleel Skinner, a South Florida kid, ended up flipping to Miami, they had a needed tight end. This was definitely a tight race. Like you said, up until Tuesday night, he hadn't told Alabama or LSU yes or no. Ultimately, it's a tough loss for LSU, a kid that's, an hour away from the school, who just was a 4A most outstanding player. The thing about Danny Lewis is, he's a fantastic player. He's going to compete for playing time at Alabama, but LSU can go in the transfer portal and try to, find a replacement. It's a whole new idea nowadays. Usually this loss would have been way more detrimental. They didn't really sign a tight end, and Danny Lewis is, a shining in-state kid. But with the transfer portal, it's almost like free agency. You miss a really talented high school kid, and then maybe you'll find a sophomore that hasn't played at, McNeese or, Louisiana Tech, and he transfers to LSU. So it's a big loss because Danny has a ton of upside, and tight end's a hard position to project, but he's got so many, fantastic attributes. Alabama stuck in late. They're known to do that, and they capitalize because they have some a foundation in place, and LSU will get there. You know how coaching transitions are, but this staff really only had 3 weeks to recruit these guys.
Sam Spiegelman joining us here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Jacoby Matthews yesterday afternoon was the other one that everybody was paying attention to. As you said, the number one player in the state of Louisiana in a very wealthy, talented year and cycle here in 2022. Where did LSU lose Jacoby Matthews?
Great question. I think honestly the decision was finalized on Wednesday morning. I know that there was no decision even hours before Jacoby announced. His dad said he still wasn't even sure. This is something that he's probably going to continue to wrestle with until he gets to College Station. It's very difficult for Jacoby Matthews. First offer came from LSU as a freshman at Ponchatoula. He didn't even know most of the schools or coaches recruiting him back then. He didn't know he was going to be a recruit, and Corey Raymond and Coach O did a really good job of recruiting him, and Mickey Joseph early on. He has forever been an LSU lean, do not get me wrong. And up until last month, I still would not have believed that he would end up in College Station.
Wow.
You have to credit Jimbo Fisher and that staff. It's really hard when LSU wants an in-state kid to come in to Ponchatoula, Louisiana, and pluck a five-star safety. LSU with a history of recruiting DBs, especially in state. And, I know you saw the Jamal Adams and Devin White comp that the LSU staff was trying to show to Perkins and Jacoby. And Jacoby has so many connections to that roster. You can go up and down, and there's a connection for Jacoby to one of those kids or one of those coaches. LSU was in a fantastic spot to close with him. Texas A&M with the number one class. Missing on Perkins, a little bit extra incentive to Jacoby. He thinks he can play a little bit quicker at Texas A&M. He thinks he can develop quicker. I'm not sure you could say that, LSU did anything wrong. I think you really need to credit A&M for just kind of pushing. And every time LSU would take a little bit of a lead, A&M just came full fire. And I think the big thing, they really convinced the parents.
I bet.
Sammy, what about from a standpoint of LSU and the things that they had to deal with from the variables of what they were recruiting against, putting the staff together, dealing with the transfer portal stuff? What do you make of what they were able to put together in a, like we've said, a pretty revolutionary year of recruiting in the state? How do you think they managed it with everything that they were dealing with?
Honestly, you think about when Ed took this job from Les Miles a couple of years ago, and that seemed like a way more frantic time than this last signing period. I mean, in December, he was still able. Listen, there's a lot of really great players in the state. If you're thinking about rebuilding a team or building up a team in a elite signing class, you went and you made sure Walker Howard signed. He's a legacy, a 5-star quarterback. You kept Will Campbell in the class as a 5-star offensive tackle. And in Louisiana, offensive tackles do not grow on trees. Making sure he stayed home was essential. And then you got Quincy Wiggins, 5-star defensive end, in my opinion, probably the best player in the state with the highest upside. Getting him in December, colossal. Listen, a lot of things did not go right yesterday, and you look at the class as a full, and yeah, there's a lot of areas of need. But getting a guy like Perkins to pair with Wiggins, those are staple players to build a foundation around. And you hit the transfer portal so hard. These guys have, guys like Greg Brooks and Joe Fuchsia were just playing on Saturdays in the SEC. So I know it's hard for LSU fans to get excited when they miss on Jacoby Matthews, a 5-star DB from Ponchatoula, but you added so many SEC players and SEC DBs with the transfer portal. I think that given the fact that they were still adding Coach Hankton to the staff last month, and they were very close to landing Caleb Douglas and closing strong with a lot of these kids. I think by this time next year, you have Frank Wilson, you have Cortez Hankton, you have Joe Sloan on this staff. The reception of Brian Kelly has been phenomenal by coaches and parents and players here. It's actually surprising to see how much they've embraced Brian Kelly. They got a few good players in state. They went out of state for Perkins. It's still a top 10 class. You look at the transfer portal, they've reinforced the roster. I think by this time next year, we're going to see LSU recruiting on a level that I think fans are more accustomed to, especially with the guys in state that they usually get better results on signing day.
You have great relationships with these guys, and you've been covering recruiting for a while and do it as good as anybody in the business. How good is Texas A&M's class?
It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. You have to start at the quarterback position. Connor Wegman, I can talk for hours about Walker Howard or Cade Klubnik, and I could do the same thing with Connor Wegman. He's a steroided version up of Johnny Football. He's just a better version of Johnny Football, and he's the real deal. And when you look at A&M's roster, the biggest thing that they're missing is a quarterback. And, I don't know if a freshman can come in and play right away, but he's going to compete in a few years when he's driving the engine. They're going to be a really good football team. Just coming into Louisiana and Baton Rouge and getting Le'Veon Moss, who's a speedster, insane. The receivers they got, Evan Stewart and Chris Marshall. A&M does not have a history of throwing the ball downfield, but if you don't with Chris Marshall and Evan Stewart, then something's wrong because Evan Stewart is the fastest kid in the country, and Chris Marshall might be a better receiver, one of those basketball kids that just takes the football very well. Along the D-line, I think they signed like 3 tight ends that are all like in the top 10 at the position. It's like they went in free agency with $100 million salary cap and just got every best free agent. They dominated in state. Coming in to get Jacoby Matthews is wild. It's unprecedented. Getting Walter Nolan, getting Shamar Stewart from Florida. A&M, it wasn't just dominating in state, which they did. It's going into Louisiana and Florida, and those are, out-of-state teams where they have prominent programs in state. And this class is every bit as good as the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Offensive, there's not a position that they missed after getting Jacoby Matthews. It's absolutely loaded. Now it comes with expectations because, Georgia has reeled in a lot of number 1 recruiting classes before this year, and finally they got over the hump and won a natty. The pressure is going to be on A&M very quickly when you look at all the pieces they just brought in, the roster that they have, the progress that they've made under Jimbo. But if they're not in the college football playoff, it's all for naught because they have too much talent not to make it at this point.
Sammy, keep up the great work, man. Love reading your work. We'll have you on again soon. If you make it down to Baton Rouge, we got to get you in studio.
Sounds good, Jordy. Appreciate you, man.
You got it, man. There's Sam Spiegelman checking in from On3 Sports at Sam Spiegs is where you follow him on Twitter. Great information, great insight. As good a relationships with the recruits as you'll find in the business. He is very well connected to those guys and does great work. Appreciate him stopping by here on this on this Thursday morning. GoFlow IV brings you the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember to get over to GoFlow. They're located on Jefferson Highway over there at 7370 Jefferson Highway. They're online at GEAUXFlowIV.com. They offer memberships over there. Baton Rouge's premier medical spa specializing in IV hydration treatments with vitamin infusion. As we said, memberships available 3-month, 6-month, annual memberships. They can help you with chronic dehydration, illness recovery, athletic performance. Online at GoFlow, GEAUXFlowIV.com. All you got to do is mention the Jordy Culotta Show. If you mention it to them when you call in to make your appointment, if you walk in over there, if you make the appointment online, just mention the Jordy Culotta Show, 15% off of your initial visit over there at GoFlow, GEAUXFlowIV.com. A lot of recruiting discussion. Appreciate Sam Spiegelman for dropping by. Appreciate talking to Josh Pate. Next, we will switch it up and talk a little NFL as the Super Bowl is a week from Sunday, and Joey Burrow and the Bengals will be taking on the Los Angeles Rams. That line's still at 4.5?
Oh, let me check. I haven't looked at it.
We will talk to Jimmy Burrow, the father of Joe, coming up next year on the Jordy Culotta Show. See a lot of you who are watching on YouTube. We appreciate you being here on this Thursday, starting with us. Make sure to hit that like button, share button if you don't mind, comment button. Just interact with us. The like button is the easiest thing to do.
There's plenty of comments.
There's
We appreciate it.
They don't have to hit a button for that.
4.5.
4.5?
Over under 48.5.
All right, we're going to link up with Coach Burrow next, and we'll be right back here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
What's that?
A little trivia question?
Oh, sure.
Y'all ready for that?
I was going to say Brian Kelly maybe ruined Denny Lewis. He got too much too fast with the going dick to butt instead of butt to butt. It might have scared him. The commitment issues.
So weird.
Coach, good morning. Hold tight. Coming to you.
What's the
time
trivia?
for trivia?
Yeah, get one. Squeeze it in there.
Does a marriage between a less attractive man and a beautiful woman last longer than other marriages?
Because they're
or
rich.
less?
Like Jimbo
That is
Fisher.
not the question. Less attractive man and beautiful
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. It is recruiting reaction this morning, but we have not forgotten about the big game on the horizon. 1 week from Sunday, Super Bowl 56.
Unbelievable.
With Joey Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Los Angeles Rams. And go ahead and say they won't win. Joey's just going to pull up on you and get that W and a ring in year 2. What a story it has been. I've been on radio shows all this week, Coach, and one of the questions that they've asked is, are you surprised that Burrow is in the Super Bowl? And I say this honestly. If you would have asked me 3 months ago, if you would have asked me at the start of the season, if you would have asked me maybe 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have bet on it. I wouldn't have said it's going to happen. But now that he's here, it is not surprising that it has taken him just 2 years in the NFL to find himself on Super Sunday. What is this like? Good morning.
Well, it's a great journey, and certainly continues. The crazy ride is still going, but it shouldn't surprise us that the least surprised guy of anybody is Joe.
Right.
So he expected to be where they are, and he told me this summer that they had a great chance to do well this year, and adding Jamar certainly helped, and the whole team has really come together, and I like our chances next Sunday.
Whenever Joe told you that, did you go ahead and book your trip to SoFi? Did you take him at his word that quickly?
No, I did not. But it's unbelievable. You still just sit around and say it's amazing. You turn on the TV and it's all about Joe, Jamar, the Bengals, and it's fun to be a part of it, and still trying to process all the things that we have to do to get down there, and we took everything out of Joe's hands so that he can concentrate on getting ready for the game. I can see where players could really get distracted and lose focus if they have to take care of all this thing themselves.
I can't wait to hear about that because I saw him and Drew Brees were sitting down for an interview inside of Bengal Stadium, and then I heard him and Tom Brady on Brady's latest podcast of Let's Go, which really it aired on Sunday night. I mean, it was almost as if Joe was leaving the locker room and recording that podcast, and I had never heard him, Coach, in that element where he was not in awe, but he was so respectful of where he was and who he was talking to, where he felt like the alpha. He'll always be an alpha, but it was as if he was in the room of like the king alpha and he was paying his respects. How cool was that conversation from your point of view? And if you've had a chance to talk to him about that chat, how cool was that for Joe?
I talked to him, but that didn't really come up. I think I did say, "Hey, I heard you were on Brady's podcast," and he just said yes. But, we didn't know it that he was going to do it. His marketing WME didn't know it because he turned down almost every major interview, for a while, except the ones he's obligated to, and so that tells you a little what he thinks of Tom Brady, because he agreed to that one with without talking to anybody, and just when somebody like that calls, you answer, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, unbelievable, Coach. The recall on him, recalling that moment of Brady getting his helmet knocked off. I believe that was in like 2002.
I think so. One with Nate Clemens.
When that hit, with Nate Clemens hit him in Buffalo. Kind of brought Brady back to Burrow as a kid. You could hear Burrow kind of going back to his childhood, explaining that moment. Do you remember growing up, if he had a favorite quarterback, was there somebody that he looked up to that he really was a fan of as a kid?
Well, eventually, and I don't know when that started, but he was a Saints fan because of Reggie Bush, and of course Drew Brees. So if you ask him, he would probably say Drew Brees. But how can you not grow up and admire and respect Tom Brady? So I'm sure in the back of his mind the whole time he's just thinking that one of these days he wants to be like either one of those. But his excitement when he met Drew Brees, I think back at LSU, that he doesn't get that excited. I mean, it's the demeanor. We all know about it. It's pretty calm and even keel, but he was excited to meet Drew. That's for sure. They exchanged jerseys. That's one of the few that we had framed and put in his trophy case room. That was one of them that he wanted, the one that Drew gave him and signed.
Yeah, a season filled of cool moments like that 2019 championship season was. That was one of the cool ones that stuck out, of Burrow and Brees meeting at the Saints facility and shading jerseys. Yesterday, Coach, I was listening to coverage of National Signing Day, and Lance Leipold, the Kansas head coach, was on with the crew that I was listening, and they asked him about Joe because he went to the the championship game in Kansas City on Sunday, and he was talking about that. And he was talking about how big of a bummer it was that the Chiefs had lost and how everybody was down around home. And the guy said, "But yeah, you got to love that Burrow guy, right? You got to respect the way he plays." And Coach Leipold said, "Yeah, not only do I remember Joe, not only do I respect Joe's game now, but I remember him as a kid running around the Nebraska facilities when I was coaching with his father, Jimmy." And it got me thinking, I wonder how many phone calls and texts have you gotten from former coaches that you have coached alongside and people that you have grown this game with?
Yeah, I had 550 text messages. I still I'm down to 200.
Wow.
I try to return them all. And Lance, Kansas, we did coach together at Nebraska and worked together. We've stayed friends. We've kept in touch. He was at Buffalo, so we'd see him once a year when he was a head coach. He's doing a great job at Kansas. But just so many people have reached out. I always like Archie Manning, always text, and Joe's big games, and Cooper. So, people like that are just big time families and friends, and I throw out names like that because I'm proud of it.
Right.
I'm in awe of some of that. But yeah, I so many coaches that I've worked with, and I love hearing from former players too, and so many of them coached at a lot of different places, and to hear from them for the first time in a long time is a special feeling.
Coach, do you consult anybody this week on how to manage a Super Bowl quarterback as far as all the off the field stuff goes? You mentioned that you've taken everything off of Joey's plate. How much is it, and how do you what is the schedule like?
Well, we started communicating with the Bengals actually Monday, and they've done a great job of sending the players. They had a kind of a video to say what's going on, and Joe really this wasn't involved in that. I mean, I just told him we're going to do everything we can to make sure you don't have to do it. So, there's tickets, there's charter flights, there's hotels, and the Bengals are awesome to communicate all that and to help us process, all the details. And I just told Joe, hey, this is how many tickets, and those are limited too, and they're expensive, but it's the Super Bowl, right?
Sure.
And there's still details. We had to fill out these online forms, and so that had to be in by 5:00 last night, and we're still waiting for confirmation that, hey, yes, I requested these tickets. I need these hotel rooms, and everything's limited. Like you get 2 hotel rooms, 2 on the flight. But the Bengals have done a great job of organizing this and reaching out to the families. But I can see where, let's say, Joe was trying to do all of this, that you can get distracted, you can lose your focus. I mean, they had a couple of days off, so that if I had a question or two, Joe would actually answer. And if it's a normal week, nothing. I wouldn't even ask him questions. But I knew there was a few things going on that I had to ask him. But there's a lot to it, and I didn't really realize that, to tell you the truth.
What is his mental state like? I mean, like, I know you're mentioning, like, I'm nervous to ask him a question, but I mean, like, where is his headspace? I mean, how locked in is this dude right now?
He tries to, or doesn't try. He keeps the same format and routine every week. So, they got back Sunday night. He goes in Monday and gets treatment. He comes home, usually plays video games with his old high school friends, and I know he was doing that on Monday. So it's kind of crazy that he still does that with his friends, but that's kind of his downtime. That's kind of his way he gets away from everything. But eats a lot of the same things. Goes to bed early, goes in for treatment, and I think today. They're starting their preparation, and I'm not sure when they go down, but there's a lot to it. But Joe's pretty disciplined the way he handles the week.
Wait, what games are he playing? What is he on? Madden, 2K? What is he on?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I don't know about that. He seems to get new things all the time. So anyway, he's always. Love playing video games, and it's usually with his high school friends. There are some former Buckeyes, I think, that I hear him talk about that he's playing with, maybe the Boses and stuff. But Nick Bosa tries to sack him, and then probably the next day after that game, they were playing video games together. It's kind of fun.
The picture of you and Jimmy Chase smoking the cigars outside of the game is classic, one that will live on for infamy. Almost as good as the horns down pick. What is life like for you, Jimmy, and just everybody in Cincinnati right now? I got to imagine people are walking on clouds right now.
Yeah, Jimmy, they kind of tradition. They try to see Robin and I somewhere, whether it's a tailgate, and right before kickoff, because we're a little superstitious. So I see him on the other section, and I know he's looking for me. So I go over there and we get the hug, and we've always, since LSU, I always say, hey, we need 2 from Jamar today. And back in the day at LSU, he'd always raise me one. I'd say we need 1, and he'd say 2. So he was usually right. We'd get that many, but lately, if I say 2, he knows that's good enough in the NFL or 1, and we have fun with that. And then afterwards, I mean, Jimmy, I think he smokes cigars. I really don't, but so I'm coming up, and he's already at our tailgate afterwards when Robbie and I got there, and my son Jamie handed me a cigar, and Jimmy and I we're flying pretty high there, cloud 9, literally, right, number 9, and so it was fun. And somebody said, "Hey, let's get a picture of that." And I mean, he was in shock as I was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Jamar's first year. Joe's second. Tyler Shelvin's been playing good too. He's been a big part of it the last few weeks. So we love the connection to LSU for sure.
Are they going to call Thad up for the Super Bowl with the injury to Uzomah?
That'd be great.
I
don't know the status of Thad. You know how he's coming along in his injury and if he's available, but you know, I guess that would be a possibility if he's healthy.
What a wave you are surfing into Southern California for Super Bowl 56. Enjoy the ride. I know you are. This is so cool to be a part of this, and you giving us just a little bit of a piece of it to tag along with, man. We are pulling for Joey, Jamar, everybody in Cincinnati and the Bengals next Sunday. Hopefully we can talk again before the big game, but enjoy it, man. Thank you as always, Coach.
Okay. All right, guys. Go Bengals, go Tigers.
Yes, sir.
Right.
There he is.
Okay.
Coach Burrow checking in this morning as what a story.
What a life.
What a life, man. I mean, Joe Burrow, he wins the AFC Championship game when he's playing. He talks to Tom Brady on his podcast, the same podcast that Brady is talking about when he's going to announce his retirement.
I love that he's
Joe Burrow is the feature story on Brady's podcast.
The guard.
And then he goes and plays video games with his high school friends, bro.
So
It's like he's still living at home.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, man.
He does all the same things, and then his dad still knows not to talk to him. He's like, I don't really talk to him that often.
I can't ask him that question.
I mean, I'm scared to text my son.
It's unbelievable, man. It's crazy. RMB Builders brings you all those conversations as we just got a text message from Gordon McKernan is going to stop by here in 10 minutes. We're going to call him up and talk to him about last night's NIL. Kind of what the strategy may be around recruiting high schoolers, to transfer portal guys, to even, the current roster. And what about other sports? He started with Alexis Morris on the women's basketball team. What about baseball? We had Trey Morgan come through here the other day. He sat down with Mikey Matuk. He spent about an hour in the studio when he was off air. And, I mean, talk about somebody who gets it. And really from a brand standpoint, if you're a business owner, really would – with the way that baseball is played and the visibility of those guys and the flash that Morgan has and coming off the season, I wonder how much and how attractive baseball is to somebody like Gordon McKernan. We'll talk about all that at 8:45 this morning. But remember, RMB Builders, RMB-Builders.com. Rhett Bourgeois and his crew over there at RMB Builders have been great to us. Katie's always got projects at her house going on, or real estate around town, and he's helped us out with flooding at the house and moving in the new DL. It's all been great to work with Rhett Bourgeois. If you want great communication, transparent communication, keep you up to date with everything that's going on, get in touch with RMB Builders, RMB-Builders.com. RMB-Builders.com
is
where you
come
can
in
fit
here and build us some bunk beds.
Bunk beds, couple of projects here at the new DL. Even though they're got a little temporary sleeping pad back there now.
The couch.
Move some stuff around.
There is no job.
There is no that couch has been said before.
I mean, when Jared Foster turned the corner and saw that couch, it was almost like a long lost love. It was almost like my first love. It was like, there she is.
So he didn't even want to leave.
It was. He was kind of like petting her when he was kind of like petting the couch and he was sitting down. He was like, boys,
I got it cleaned.
Yes. Or that it's out of the room.
He sat down and goes, scoot over. This is my spot. He goes, Mikey gets right here. I get right here. We watch our movies.
He kind of looked at Lloyd in the spot that he was sitting. He was like, yeah, bro, you can sit right there.
Watch yourself.
Yeah, right. Don't flip that cushion over.
Yeah. Got those clean too. Those are clean too.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
yeah.
That's a wild card.
Yeah, right. I don't know if there's a pressure washer in town.
That's where that Saints helmet went, Jerry.
Oh, my God.
All right, so we're going to talk to Gordon here in a couple of minutes. We appreciate you being here on this Thursday morning. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, interact with us here on YouTube. And don't forget about JordyCulottaShow.com. You can pick up some merchandise there. We've got our store available there, jordy.itemorder.com if you want to go directly to it to pick up some of the gear here, whether it's a hoodie or a sweatshirt for the cold season or getting ready for spring and fall, spring and summer with some of the selections over there. Just check it out online at jordy.itemorder.com. Let's take a quick break and come back. I need to refill the water, and we will reset. We'll be back. We'll talk to Gordon McKernan coming up here to close it out here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Do you have questions about your finances? Are you looking for recommendations from a skilled financial advisor? Get in touch with our friend Daniel Newman over at Edward Jones. You can find him easily by logging online and shooting him an email at daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. That is daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. Whether it is help with your 401k or just fiscal advice heading into the new season, get in touch with Daniel today. Best way to do it? Email him, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. He's our experienced financial advisor. Let him be yours, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. Go Chevrolet is proud to announce Go Express Auto Sales, the new used car lot located in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express Auto Sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in LaPlace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. Fast moving 2 hours here. We appreciate you starting your Thursday and being here with us. Make sure you hit that like button, that share button, that comment button. A lot of recruiting talk. We talked to Sam Spiegelman. We talked to Josh Pate from 247, Spiegelman from On 3 Sports. We also talked to Jimmy Burrow, father of Joe Burrow, who is on the way to the Super Bowl 56, to take on the Los Angeles Rams. So really cool stuff. We also talked to Cody Worsham in Hour 1 about last night's NIL get-together on LSU's campus. The importance of it was stressed by just the panel, right? Jay Johnson was on a panel. Brian Kelly was the speaker to open up the event. Scott Woodward closed out the event. We heard about business people being there. Over 500 people in attendance on South Stadium's expansion last night. And Gordon McKernan's really been the guy with NIL that LSU has branded themselves, or almost has been branded with, because of the work that he has done to step up and really taken on, whether it was keeping Keishawn Butte and a deal for him, or some of the transfer portal guys that we saw, and Alexis Morris and the basketball team, to now signing day behind us. I wonder how that affected Gordon McKernan. Of course, you see him all over the place. You know who he is, and he loves LSU, and he has stepped up from an NIL standpoint to really make LSU a player here. And he joins us now here on the Jordy Culotta Show. It's good to have him back, a friend of our show. G, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. It's been a long grind through all this NIL and the recruiting stuff. So feeling good, but a little worn out, but good.
What was signing day like from your point of view?
I thought overall, given the length of time that the staff had, or lack of time, I thought they did fairly well. The things that you think about and maybe have nightmares about in terms of what other schools are trying to do to the in-state kids are happening. Without a doubt, I'm not going to get into names and stuff, but for those listeners out there, those things are happening very aggressively from other schools. And LSU, I commend them for playing by the rules and trying to do the right things when other schools are just simply going at it in the wild, wild west.
Is there a difference in NIL for students that are on the roster compared to students that you were trying to attract to the roster? How are those conversations different?
Yeah, that's a great question. And certainly, as I had told some of the coaching staff, that they need to start re-recruiting their present players. And that's a sad thing that you have to do. But the present players on the roster, they have to continually stay on top of, recruit, because the other schools are targeted our better players. I have 2 NIL offers that, probably announce here hopefully next week or so, with 2 prominent defensive linemen that are very good players, should stay part of the team, great kids, but, they hear the rumors and the whispers of the bigger dollars in other places. So they have to continue doing that. As far as the high school kids, there's NCAA compliance rules and there's state laws that are in effect, and those laws differ from state to state. Hopefully the law in Louisiana will be modified a little bit to help organize better the business groups, but you still can't, promise kids in high schools and offer deals to kids. You just have to stress if you look at the rich history of LSU and how we support the program, meaning the business community and the boosters and the alumni, and you look at the facilities and the stadium and how high the coaches are being paid, common sense tells you that LSU is going to compete against anybody in terms of being able to offer NIL deals to kids.
Gordon McKernan joining us here talking NIL. Last night we saw an event on campus attract not only coaches like Brian Kelly, Jay Johnson, and athletics director Scott Woodward, but really influential business people from around the community.
Right.
Do you see the momentum starting to change pace? You are really the one that has led the charge on this and has really kind of expedited it. It feels. How do you feel the energy is moving now?
Yeah, I really am beginning to see the ball finally move. I spoke at a luncheon yesterday that was organized by some business leaders, probably about 30 to 40 business leaders, and I gave a presentation, kind of talked about it. Some other people talked, and through the course of the meal, the questions started picking up. There was a reticence or a hesitancy at first, but I answered a bunch of questions more after the presentation was over and just kind of talking through the lunch period. And I think they're beginning to understand it. A lot of these companies just aren't into that advertising method or that advertising mode, hadn't really thought about how it might benefit their company, and they're beginning to put it together. I think last night's event was a wonderful thing that LSU did put on. There were many of the coaches there. The golf coach, Kim Mulkey, was there. Will Wade was there. Coach Kelly was there. Lots of coaches and lots of support from LSU, which I thought was great. And I saw many, many business owners and friends who were there, and I think they got a lot out of it.
Yeah. From a legislative standpoint, how competitive is the state of Louisiana when you look at what's happening around the competitive states from a sports standpoint?
Yeah. Now, compared to all the states, we're not in terrible shape, right? We are modeled similar to a handful of states out there, but some of these other states have quickly acted and removed certain provisions of their laws, which allows them to be probably more organized through the athletic department, right? Kind of a connected arm of it. And I think that's what we're going to try to do here in this state is give TAF an opportunity, should they choose to do it. And I'm not saying they would do it, but should they choose to be involved in some aspect and helping to organize it or facilitate it, might still have a third party involved in it, but give them some more options, because right now they're kind of having to tiptoe around, not sure if the law allows it or what they should do next. And I think that would give a lot of businesses kind of like security or insurance. Well, TAF's involved. I know it's going to be okay. They'll help me through the process.
You are dominant in what you do. You are the leader in your trade in our state and in this region. Right. Is your business model changing?
It's definitely going to change for the next 12 to 24 months, right? When I've been visiting with different agencies and such, I didn't plan on any NIL deals for dollars for budgeting for 2022, just zero, right? Because it really jumped up on me that weekend with the Kayshawn deal. And we've shifted, and I'm going to, allocate substantial dollars this year and next year and then reassess. I think you have to give it 12 to 24 months partnering with these kids or these groups of kids in different sports and different schools, and then see the type of return you're getting. But I'll tell you a quick story that was really heartfelt to me. And look, I get it as a personal injury lawyer. People are not fanatical about that, and I've said that many times. And I don't ever think I've had a young kid come up to me. A lot of them come up and want to take a picture or something, but never had one come up to me and say, hey, thank you for being a personal injury lawyer. But at the game the other night, the basketball game.
Good seats, by the way.
Yeah, good seats. Heartbreaker, but a young kid, probably 11 years old, said, hey, can I take a picture? I said, sure. And he says, I want to thank you for supporting LSU football. Wow. I was like, wow. It kind of struck me. And I was like, well, that's good feedback, right? So maybe there's goodwill that's being gathered from my company and my brand. And if so, then that's a positive thing. And that's the return on investment that I'm looking for. That people know that I do care for things other than just, hey, come sign with me in a car wreck. Look, I love LSU and the long, rich history I have with my family. So, yeah, so it's good for people to understand that.
Absolutely. And you have been – I think you get approached like that because people have felt the impact that you have had immediately on football. Trey Morgan was in our building the other day. He was in our studio, and he is a very electric personality. Cool kid. I mean, not only a really outstanding baseball player, but very relatable to people out there. I know you started with Alexis Morris on the college basketball floor. How far does this expand?
Yeah, so I had a nice meeting with Trey this week. I met with 3 LSU baseball players that I'm putting together a package of deals for, and hopefully we'll announce that next week. I think Trey and I are close to inking a deal, and you're right. I had never met him until I went to the banquet the other night. Just saw him from across the room and watched him for a moment or two, and it caught my eye with that personality. Immediately you see it. And the fact that he's a Louisiana homegrown New Orleans kid, he loves the state. I said, Trey, I want to, put you in that light as Louisiana's son, right? You're here. I think you're going to do some great things. And he loved the pitch. His agents were there. You can have NIL agents, or it's all confusing now, but they were there. They were nice. And I'm looking forward to doing deals across multiple spectrums. And that's what your listeners need to know is go sign a golfer, right? And have that golfer go to Top Golf with your top executives, right? Have a 2-hour session where he's giving tips and you're having fun, and that golfer makes some money. Or go sign a baseball. Trey plays golf, so that's one thing I'm thinking about doing. We're going to go play golf at Top Golf together. But there's little things like that you can do which will benefit your business, benefit the kid, and benefit LSU.
Gordon McKernan, dominant lawyer, changing the game in NIL, and local golf hustler. Right? He's going to show up to the course with Trey Morgan.
Sure, his clubs are fitted.
Like the youngster the other night at the basketball game, I'd like to reiterate that message from a lot of our listeners that are inside of this chat. We have over 600 people that are live watching now, and a lot of the messages continue to say, thank you, Gordon. Thank you, G. Our family wants to thank Gordon. Thank you, G. From all of us, thank you for at least making LSU competitive here in year one of what has been NIL-based recruiting. You saw yesterday the impact that NIL is having on college campuses, and just for LSU to be in the discussion, I think that you deserve a ton of credit and a ton of just thanks from the fan base. So thank you from a lot of our listeners here and from us.
Well, I'm not sure I deserve all that. I just love LSU, and I was just happy to jump out, and the ball's rolling now. We just need more people to get involved and just reach out. Just reach out to a kid you like. It's so easy to connect to these kids now today through all the social media platforms. Jordy, you know a ton of people. You've helped me actually connect with some of these kids. So there's lots of ways to do it. Don't be apprehensive. Just get in the game, and a little deal goes a long way with some of these kids. And I'll tell you one thing. We lost Trevante Citizen for this reason. When he was calling the present players, he started calling just different ones he knows, asking how many deals they had. And they weren't able to tell him that they had a lot of deals, right? And that's what his high school coach told me, right? So that's why we lost. So, and they don't have to be big deals. Some of these deals, I'm telling you, $500, $1,000 here and there, and that will go a long, long way. Happy to help anybody. You can always call me, and I'll kind of share what I know so far, give you a framework, give you a contract that you can use. So I'm happy to do any of those things.
Yep, and if you are looking for a line to get in touch with Gordon, you can hit us on social media, or if you can get in touch with us directly, we will make that connection for you. Thank you, G. We will talk again soon, man.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right,
there he is,
bye-bye.
Gordon McKernan, checking in here this morning, talking some NIL stuff as LSU last night had an event on campus. Cody Worsham checked in and gave it a point of view from that side. And then Gordon stopping by here to close out today's show and kind of giving the business side there. It does sound like there is some momentum starting to build for LSU, and I know that is what Gordon has been urging and been wanting to see happen look, he's talking about Mason Smith and Allie Gay there, those two defensive linemen that he's talking about that are fielding calls from other schools and hearing from other. But this stuff is so real right now in what is happening on not only to LSU's, crop of up-and-coming football players like Jacoby Matthews and what happened to him yesterday, and as Trevante Citizen, as Gordon he just told you from the front line, he got a call from the high school coach and said, look, this is why he is leaving the state. He's not getting enough deal. He can't get the commitment to hear that there's enough deals. Whatever you feel about Trevante Citizen, him making that phone call, the high school coach being involved, Gordon being involved, LSU not being, however you feel, this is the world that we are living in. This is the world that overrules college football. And LSU has to be competitive in this space to not lose guys like Trevante Citizen and Jacoby Matthews in future recruiting cycles. And things like last night, what LSU hosted on their campus that had people in the room like Gordon McKernan and Brandon Landry and other successful business owners from around the area who care and love LSU, and hearing the message and the encouragement and urging of people like Brian Kelly, Jay Johnson, and Scott Woodward, that goes a long way. Now there's starting to build momentum. You're starting to see, like G just said, the ball rolling, the momentum rolling in the right direction. So that's good to hear, right? I mean, like, that's LSU. You may feel grimy about it. You may feel like, wow, that's something that you don't want to be involved in. That's something but LSU has to be involved in if they want to stay competitive. Because the way that they stay competitive is getting Jacoby Matthews and Trevante Citizen. And when Texas A&M gets Jacoby Matthews and Alabama gets Danny Lewis, that makes your immediate competition, SEC Western Division competition, better out of your own state. That can't happen if you want to play for championships. I mean, it can't happen. And if they're losing out on those guys because they don't have the organization behind the scenes on NIL stuff, well, you got to have people like Gordon McKernan who are steady, beating the drum. He's relentless. He's not letting up. The Kayshawn, he could have signed Kayshawn, rode off into the sunset, and still been
a hero.
Kind of a hero. You save LSU's best player from going to Alabama. But now, I mean, he's paying Miles Frazier out of the transfer portal. He's paying Kyron Lacey out of Lafayette. He's paying Mason Smith.
Mason.
Keeping Allie Gay on the defensive line and in school. He's talking to Trey Morgan about a baseball deal. He's got Alexis Morris inked in college. I mean, he's not stopping.
And he didn't budget for it.
No, he's single-handedly.
And I would be willing to bet that he's behind the Harold Perkins story. because who knows what Harold Perkins had on the table from Florida, Miami, and Texas A&M. And for LSU to get the hat call, for LSU to be the choice, somebody's paying somebody.
Look at Mama.
She's smiling.
She is smiling. That's the first time
Uncle
I've seen her
Kev or
smile.
Uncle Al.
Who wouldn't be smiling when I was behind you like
I
that?
know, right?
I'm almost tempted to like cold call Uncle Kev on the
Please
air.
do it. Do it, Jordy. Do it.
I mean, now that I've said it, I've got to do
I
it.
mean, he's cool about it. He'd be cool about it.
I mean,
right?
he might not be awake. Big Sully for them too. I
He's
bet.
awake today, right?
Then
He's
go to
running
sleep.
on adrenaline.
Yes.
Pure adrenaline.
He's still on the stage.
Yeah, that's right.
Turn it up.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Hello.
Unc.
What's up?
This is Jordy Culotta from the Jordy Culotta Show again. Can we have you live on the show?
Oh, I ain't messing with that right now.
All right, we're going to hang up. I'm going to call you back after the show. You're on right now. We'll call you back. Hey, congratulations. LSU won, bro. We're in.
Look, I'm getting ready for work, but I'll do your show tomorrow. How that sound?
That sounds perfect. We'll call you tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, man. We're in. Uncle Kev's in tomorrow.
Oh, Uncle Kev about to get
I tightened up. I tightened up when he went. I tightened up. Oh, shit.
I'm not messing with that right now.
That mama must have got after their ass.
That's what he's about to do it again.
He was like, I ain't messing with that. I ain't doing that.
He went back the week after, and on everything we posted, all the clips, everything, he was like, man, y'all twist my words. I ain't saying. Oh, sorry, we just said what you said.
Is that him on the video? That's for sure him. That's the right uncle.
Oh yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
That's the right uncle that we just talked to.
Absolutely.
I don't know which one's which. I don't know.
It's either
We got
Kev
Uncle
or Al.
Kev or Uncle Alan.
Kev
We got
or
one
Al.
of them in trouble.
Right.
Yeah, one of them was in big trouble. Big trouble. He texted me. The text was so funny.
After that first time?
No, yeah, he texted me after the first time, and he said, y'all got to take that shit down, man. Y'all causing some family beef.
Oh, I feel bad.
Oh, me too. What if no chance he comes on tomorrow?
No.
Mom was
Too much time.
Asked again.
Awesome.
Too much time.
I heard you
But I mean, at this point,
again.
Mom, what's the problem?
Right.
I don't know.
Like, Mom, you're in.
You're in.
We saw you smiling, Ma. You're not that mad.
Not that mad.
See if he can get her to come on the show.
Ooh.
Wow.
Right? Both of them. We could have both of them.
Talk about tighten up.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah, I
ma'am.
know. I know. That was
Go clean your room. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is Harold there?
and then there's no twist in anybody's words if she's here too.
Oh,
Get the
gosh.
straight story.
All right, fantastic show today, man. Appreciate everybody being here.
Lloyd's not throwing up, so that was a win.
Make sure you hit that like button, share
I mean, I
button,
could.
comment button. The
If you want me
tailgate,
to.
the tailgate a week from Saturday is locked in from Daniel Newman. We're good, man.
Let's go.
We are. We're going to
time's that
be.
gonna
It's
be?
going to start around 3:30 for a 7:00 tip off between LSU and Mississippi State.
I know.
I
I have my school's gala that night that I cannot miss, so I will miss the game, but
isn't
I'll be
that
at the tailgate.
convenient?
It's not at all.
What
I
do
mean, I
you-
looked
what
at
do
the
you
calendar
have?
and was like, it's our night under the stars. It's a huge fundraiser. I mean,
For
Episcopal.
oh, I mean,
I kind of have to be there.
I don't
Carpool
know.
queen,
I mean,
bro.
Were you throwing the party?
Well, yeah, it's from Parents Guild, and I'm the president of the Parents Guild.
Yeah,
so
but you're
I'm
never
obligated
going
to be
to
there.
throw a kid party again, are you?
Oh, this is not a kid event. This
Yeah.
is adults only
But I mean,
fundraiser.
like,
At your
just
house?
just
Oh,
off
yes, I am.
off topic. You're never.
David and I 100% are going to have another party. We are both on the same page. There will be security at the front door.
Wow.
Jack has already volunteered.
Good Lord.
Wristbands and a list, and that's how another mom told me that's how she does it. She has
Lord.
parties too, and
Club
she's like,
Katie.
"This is how you have to do it." It's
I'll
not
be
going to
security.
end like last time. And it's
What color's your
absolutely
bracelet,
not.
kid? Yellow or blue?
Get over here.
Blue? You're in that section over there. Check them off, Noah.
I'm toss you over to Noah.
No, one entrance.
Put that
and
zip
one
tie on
exit.
this one.
Give me that book sack.
Yeah, all book sacks stay
All
right
outside.
here.
Stay
Let me
outside.
collect the book sack.
Culotta
There
and
you
Lloyd
go.
are searching the book sacks.
There you go.
We'll get them back to you
Well, I
once
hope
we
you
go
like
through the
Twisted
full.
Tea, 'cause that's
We'll take
what's in
this. We'll take those. We'll take that. Thank you, kid. Have a good night. Noah's gonna zip tie you in the back. Appreciate it.
Zip tie you, toss you in Henry's pen, huh?
That's exactly right.
Little back talk, son.
Here, you
Poor
can have this
Henry.
CBD one. We'll keep all the rest.
Your dad gets good shit.
Poor Henry.
You must go to Episcopal. Shit hadn't changed in 25 years.
Did you use the promo code?
Relief Med, Jordy 1. Use it today. Great show. We appreciate Ghost Chevrolet for joining us. For Stewie, Lloyd, the Carpool Queen, and Noah, we'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Uncle Al or Uncle Kev, maybe?
Maybe.
We'll see.
If Mama doesn't get him.
We'll see. A lot of time between now and tomorrow. That's a lot of time.
I ain't messing with that shit, man.
But I'll be there tomorrow.
I'll be there tomorrow. Oh, yeah.
Hey, they called it again.